Speak to Osama bin Javed, who knows the region very well, been there several times, joins us here. So let's just have a look at the context of this. We can bring up a map here and to try and understand the broader geographical picture and where all this is going on and where the targets were.
Yes, context is really important. And as you see on this map, going all the way from Iran into Iraq, into Syria, and then Lebanon, is where many of these groups have been operating, all the way from Diyala to Salahuddin to Anbar province, where the Ain al-Assad base is, where there have been a number of attacks. That base, which was hit by ballistic missiles by Iran, which houses U.S. personnel, towards Al-Bukamal, Al-Qaim on the Iraqi side, Al-Bukamal on the Syrian side, where there is a presence of U.S. forces, and then again in Deir ez-Zor, where U.S. forces are present, and these militias, which are linked to Iran, which have been playing a crucial role in the fight against ISIL, and now part and parcel of the security apparatus, whether you look at Iraq or Syria. The Popular Mobilization Forces being the biggest of them, known as the Hashd al-Sha'bi, which are now reporting to the Iraqi Prime Minister. So it is extremely significant to look at it, not just as the pretext of some armed groups that are operating in desert outposts. These are groups which have been backed, some have been trained by Iran, some by the United States and coalition forces as well in the fight against ISIL. And now, when this flares up, there is the warning of it escalating. You're already seeing 4 countries in that picture. You've already got the theater of war expanding to Yemen. And all of these groups coming together, where the U.S. insists that it is not at war in the Middle East, but it is continuing to target.
And we've already heard just now from Mahmoud saying that there's retaliation taking place. The U.S. says it's just the beginning, there's going to be more strikes coming. So the potential for this to expand is, as you say, is large.
Absolutely, and that is what we've been hearing from various regional leaders, the government of Iraq, the government of Syria, the government of Jordan, the Turks, the GCC, have all been warning against the potential for all of this to escalate beyond anybody's control, because many of these groups may be ideologically or militarily linked to Iran, but it is not clear how much operational control does Iran have of all of these groups. And if they decide, and now you've seen a retaliation because 3 U.S. personnel were killed, thousands of U.S. personnel are deployed in these areas. As you begin to see some retaliatory measures, could this escalate into something further? And again, it's not just the protection of U.S. troops. You also have to look at, for Deir ez-Zor, for instance, there are thousands and thousands of ISIL fighters who are being held by the SDF, the Kurdish forces, which are backed by the United States. In case the U.S. leaves, in case there is a vacuum, as we've seen in other theaters of war, there could be other implications. There could be other outcomes, as again, which will not be able to control by anyone in this war.
And these U.S. strikes, what actual impact do they have on the group's ability to act?
Well, it appears to be a very measured response. You have not seen any individuals being targeted. Major areas in Iraq, major cities, the settled cities have not been targeted. These strikes have been conducted in outposts, in weapons depots, infrastructures, areas where at least there was some forewarning of what was going to come. So it appears that the U.S. president had to respond. He has responded, but he hasn't responded in a way where it would, start a chain reaction of attacks and counterattacks, as we'd seen in the past. You've not at the point yet where we saw when Qasem Soleimani was murdered that the Iranian resorted to ballistic missiles against U.S. bases in Iraq. I don't think we've reached that precipice yet. But again, this is a very fluid, active theater of war, and any miscalculation could have unintended consequences.
Right. Iran says, of course, it doesn't want war, but what does it want from these militias?
Well, you see, in the last decade or so, in the fight against ISIL, yes, there has been a U.S. coalition that has been operating in that area, but all of these groups which were heading the operations, especially in Iraq, were troops on the ground, fight against ISIL done by militias which were backed by Iran, ideologically aligned to Iran. So Iran is not going to, it has now essentially control from Tehran all the way into Iraq, into Syria, and to Lebanon. So Iran has this unprecedented influence in the last few decades, that it now has groups on the ground with weapons in their hands. It is not going to give them up easily. The U.S. wants to go after them. It has been trying to go after them with its troops on the ground. But again, now that tempers are high, emotions are high with the situation in Gaza, a lot of unrest in these countries where thousands and thousands of protesters have been coming out to protest against them as well. So it will not be suitable moment for these countries, even if they wanted to go after these groups, it would not be the time, and it could, again, have unintended consequences.
Osama, that's great context for us. Thanks very much indeed for that. Osama bin Javid here. Thank you.